Hey everybody, Jokerfit here with another video. This time doing a kind of an editorial style video, actually in response to a video that one of my friends and fellow YouTubers, Adam aka JCC2224, what he posted, where pretty much he, and it's a great video, you guys should check it out. Hopefully I'll remember to put a link to it in the description below. But he did it as an excellent video where pretty much he just kind of, gave an honest criticism of what has kind of gone down, really downhill in terms of collecting Star Wars as of late. More specifically over the past year and a half or 2 years. And in that video, Adam says, that, collecting Star Wars, it just really isn't there for him anymore. It's just he's lost his enthusiasm for collecting Star Wars and, in a broader sense, just for Star Wars in general. So I thought that, it was a really great topic, and he actually specifically mentioned me in the video, saying that he'd like to hear my thoughts on it. So I thought that, yeah, it would be a great time, to talk about. And it's something that I've kind of, touched on lightly in previous videos and also on live shows. But I've never really dedicated a full video to it where I just directly discuss it. So, here we are. And, yeah, let's get to it. So, Adam makes several points in his video, and he specifically mentions the end of the vintage collection as a reason as to his downturn in interest. And I would have to agree. I think that in terms of the Star Wars license, Hasbro has severely mismanaged it. Starting about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I forget how long it's been since the vintage collection was here, but all I know is that it's been too long. And they took, it was a great line, arguably the best Star Wars toy line that Hasbro has ever done. And not just because, they're paying homage to the original Kenner figures and, we're just suckers for nostalgia. Not just that, but consistently we got brand new sculpts, excellent paintwork, and just characters that we had never seen before in action figure form. And it's fantastic. Like I said, it's one of the best Star Wars figure lines that Hasbro's ever made. One of my personal favorite toy lines of all time. And for some reason, Hasbro thought it'd be a smart idea, just cancel it. Now, I get it that, Hasbro, with their major lines, they have to have some kind of rebrand or fresh start every couple years, and just not have the same toy line running forever. That's why we had the 30th anniversary collection, which was replaced by Legacy collection, which was replaced by Vintage collection. But the difference was that those three toy lines that I just mentioned all were great, and they all had a unique spin to them. Obviously, 30th anniversary was, celebrating 30th anniversary of Star Wars, and we got a bunch of new characters in that we hadn't seen before. Legacy Collection / Build-A-Droid, introduced the whole Build-A-Droid concept, which is something that had previously existed in other licensed toy lines. What comes to mind immediately being the Marvel Build-A-Figures for the Marvel Legends line. But it was something that had never been tried before. Really, I don't think it had ever really been tried before in a 3 3/4 inch scale. And that was a great success as well. And then the Vintage collection, obviously, with the great, and it wasn't the first time that Hasbro had sold new figures in vintage style packaging as they did with the original trilogy Vintage collection, the VOTC. But it was, like I said, lots of new sculpts, lots of new characters, and great quality control, really. And I think that with the Black Series, that's something that they've just let go, is that quality control is just not there anymore. And the paintwork on figures is hit and miss. Sometimes you get a good figure with really good paintwork, and other times you don't. Point being, just look at some of the recent figures. I personally didn't buy them because, I heard they were not good. but like I'm forgetting the name of the specific battalion trooper, but it was, I think it was like the Coruscant troopers or something. They had the gray stripes, like Coruscant security. I could be totally wrong on that, but anyway, the clone troopers with the gray paint on them. That I've seen pictures of a bunch of people's different figures, and the paint on that is just all over the place. The 3 3/4 inch Black Series Stormtrooper. That, there's some horror stories about that figure. Just like, terrible paint, the eyes, it's just the face, the paint was applied like it's slanted and stuff, and it's just really, really bad quality control. Even with the recent figures like Dagobah Luke, I've seen pictures of where his eyes, the paint is just totally mismatched with where the actual sculpt of his eyes is. His eyes will be right here, but he's painted like on his eyebrows or something. It's really, really awful. And that's something that, it's a shame. It seems like Hasbro's just kind of let their quality control go with the Star Wars line. And also, originally, to succeed the Vintage Collection, we were going to get a return to the Legacy Collection with, new Build-A-Droids, and it was exciting, and it was going to be like, it was like, okay, we had to give up the Vintage Collection, but at least we're going back to a good line. But then they decided to cancel that because it was going to be too cost ineffective or something, and I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not, some economics genius where I can tell you, oh yes, if calculating the cost of making a 3 3/4 inch figure and then producing a Build-A-Figure part, I don't know what the heck, if that's actually true, that it would be cost effective, or, if Hasbro's actually being honest with us, but so that got canceled, and then that kind of took the wind out of our sails a bit, I think. We weren't getting a Build-A-Droid anymore. So what were we getting? The Black Series, which, it's, first off, the name, the Black Series, it's just not very inspiring. And I actually have a figure card here with me. This is Darth Plagueis, which is actually probably one of the best Black Series figures made thus far. But, just visually, it's unattractive. It's, when compared it with like grab this real quick, a Vintage Collection card, which this one's actually been cut, not by me, but by somebody else that I bought it from. But, which one do you think looks better if you saw it in the stores and you'd rather get? Yeah, I think this one wins every time over this. It's just a really ugly looking packaging and, very plain as well. It's been super streamlined, and I think that's a complaint I have with a lot of toy lines nowadays, is that they're just streamlining the packaging to a point where, you can it barely has anything on it. You've got like one or two little short sentences there, a very kind of hard to see image of the character, but that's it. Whereas here on the Vintage card, you'd get a nice detailed paragraph on what the Vintage Collection was, who the character was, a picture of the original Kenner figure if it had one. Obviously, when they started going into the prequel trilogy, then they couldn't do Vintage Kenner, but they had like the first release, pictures of what the first release of this character in figure form was, the year that it was made, and then on the bottom, a picture of not only just the rest of the figures that would be on the wave, but also a picture of their card backs as well. And so, yeah, it was just awesome. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, extreme mismanagement. And to go back to Hasbro real quick, because I know somebody's going to bring it up in the comments section below if I don't mention it, and that's going to be like, oh, well, what about the 6-inch Black Series figures? And really, this is just a personal opinion thing, so this isn't something that I can really, defend with actual factual-based information or something as to why it's not that great. Personally, again, very personal, but as you can see right there, I've got a decent-sized original trilogy Star Wars collection in 3 3/4 inch range that I am very happy with. Now, here comes the 6-inch Black Series figures, where Hasbro's essentially like, oh, collect all the characters that you already have, except for in a bigger scale, because we want to make money. That's my opinion on it. I've already got this collection that I'm very happy with, and I'm just, kind of making, small purchases here and there to get characters that to kind of like round out the collection. I don't really feel the need to buy all these characters again for twice as much, so I can, have a bigger version of them. That's not to say that I do not like these figures. I mean, they're good figures. I've got the Boba Fett and Stormtrooper, and they're both nice figures. But again, I don't want to collect this scale of figure in terms of Star Wars, because I've already got the 3 3/4 inch stuff that I'm very happy with. And so it seems like, Hasbro is diverting a lot of effort from their 3 3/4 inch range to also make the 6-inch range, which again is not doing anything to help my opinion of Hasbro and their management of Star Wars. So yeah, I think that really the advent of the 6-inch Black Series can also be blamed for a decline in the quality of the 3 3/4 inch line, because Hasbro, they have to split their resources now. They can't just focus all their Star Wars money that they have allocated onto making great 3 3/4 inch figures and giving us a great line in that scale. They also have to split some money, or even more than half the money, and use it to engineer new 6-inch figures. So that's my opinion of it. I know some people really love this 6-inch Star Wars stuff, and personally, I really love collecting Marvel Legends, as you can see back there. And that's also Hasbro, and that's also 6-inch, but I never collected 3 3/4 inch Marvel figures, so my primary collection in Marvel is 6-inch. It's just, I don't feel the need to collect all these characters again for twice as much money in a different scale. I'm not sure if the full blame can be put on them, because right now I honestly think that with Star Wars in general, we are in a dead zone. We are in an awkward position in between we're in a transition from the old guard, from Lucasfilm. George Lucas owned Lucasfilm, Dark Horse Comics, and also the old EU. And essentially, when Disney bought Star Wars, they just took a majority of what had been created before and just kind of threw it out the window and said, no, we want our own expanded universe, we want our own canon, all this stuff that came before is just not, it doesn't matter anymore, really. And, I could go on, I could do a whole video on my opinion of the kind of erasing of the expanded universe, but again, that's a topic for another video. So right now, it's like, they canceled the Clone Wars, which again was, I think, something that really was keeping Star Wars front and center and keeping it alive, really. I mean, I know that we're getting Rebels here in like a month, but to be honest, I am not excited in the least for Rebels. I've not really seen any, any clips, any trailers of it to get me excited, like, oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. I haven't even seen the figures start popping up in stores, and we're like a month away, less than a month away from the show premiering on Disney XD or Disney Channel, wherever it's going to be aired. And it's Disney trying to micromanage the Star Wars brand. I really think so. So Adam, in his video, he kind of ended it on a pessimistic note with, and it's like, may the Force be with you, but it's not really with me anymore. So yeah, I'm not going to end it on a bum note or anything, but I'm going to say this, that with regards to the future of Star Wars and with Star Wars collecting, I am hopeful. I hope that this crappy quality control on all these issues that are plaguing the Black Series and whatnot, all that stuff, I hope that that's just because Hasbro's diverting attention away to design brand new stuff for Star Wars Episode 7. Again, I'm kind of, putting all my bets on Star Wars 7, really, really hoping that it just re-energizes Star Wars, not just for me, but for everybody, because I think that everybody You know, honestly, I don't know a single person here on YouTube. Well, I'm sure there's somebody out there, but I don't really know anybody who, you know, is as excited for Star Wars and Star Wars collecting as they were, say, 2 years ago when the Vintage Collection was in its full swing. So I really hope that this is just because everybody across the board, whether that be in books, books and novels are the same thing, but books, comics, Hasbro figures, I hope all of that, they're just, you know, they're just kind of putting a minimum effort into the stuff now because they're preparing a media bonanza for episode 7 when that comes out. So, and I'm hoping also that with episode 7 that we're actually going to get real action figures and not these honestly these crappy 5-point articulation stuff that I don't honestly don't know a single person who likes that. Even kids don't like 5 points of articulation. I know because I was once a kid and I preferred figures that I could actually move around versus ones that were, you know, 1980s style articulation. And so yeah, I'm hopeful for the future. Episode 7, only time will tell, but I'm sure as we get closer to the release date, we're hopefully going to see a lot more content in terms of Star Wars, and we'll finally be able to get out of this really awkward and not pleasant dead zone of content that we currently are living in. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on Star Wars, both in terms of collecting and in terms of the lack of new content lately. So yeah, I'm hoping episode 7, Abrams, we're counting on you. Don't screw this up. So yeah, so thank you guys for watching as always. This is Joker Fett signing out. Bye.